This iconic theme from composer John Williams is the quintessential theme from the Harry Potter film series. It's called HEDWIG'S theme. Wait, you mean the owl? I always thought that this was Harry Potter's theme, but apparently the owl got its own theme. Which doesn't make a ton of sense to me because it's also found in the opening of the Fantastic Beast film. Someone is gonna have to help me out with that one. This is the first episode of a brand new series that I'm calling Score Study, where I'll be looking at very specific moments in a piece of music and breaking it down from a composer's perspective. And then we'll try to write a little bit of an exercise based on what we've learned. And when I say very specific, I mean very specific. We're only looking at the first two lines of this theme today. First, let's talk about the rhythm. It starts with this pickup, which I'm ignoring for now. The first thing that jumps out at me is this dotted figure here. This particular dotted figure plays a big part in the theme's memorability. Is that a word? It is now. So let's play that theme again as straight eighth notes. It's nice, but it's not quite as nice as this. I also see that it's used sparingly. It would be a very different theme if it was made up entirely of that rhythm. It's got a bit of a galloping feel to it, which he could have gone that way if he wanted to, but I think it would have drawn too much attention to that particular rhythm. Maybe in a movie about horses. Instead, we have this rhythm. We have a dotted eighth, a 16th note, and then just a regular old eighth note. Followed by a quarter, an eighth note, and then a dotted quarter, which is still that sort of off-balance swing feel. Can I say it that way? 3/8 is always off balance. Oh, and interesting. This rhythm here is an augmented retrograde of this rhythm here. So augmented, each note value is twice as long as it is in the other rhythm, and retrograde, it's played backwards. It's pretty clever, even if he didn't mean to do it. It still is a pretty fun thing to sit here and find. Let's give them labels, shall we? I'm going to call this one R1 for rhythm, and this one R2 because it's the second one. I'm just going to go ahead and label every occurrence of these. And then to start the second phrase, we've got another pickup, which I'm ignoring for now. And then here in the second phrase, the R2 rhythm becomes much more prominent. It's just a fragment, though. It's not the whole thing. It's not quarter eighth, dotted quarter. It's just quarter eighth, quarter eighth, quarter eighth. Again, it's more of that off balance sort of swing feel. Da 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 da. It's not quite that prominent. And then here at the end of the phrase, we've got some longer notes that provide some separation. Cool. The dotted quarter note is the 3/8 version of a whole note. Now, let's address this pickup. I'm going to argue that it's not structurally crucial to the motif. You could begin the melody on the downbeat and it would still be the same melody. Others may disagree. To me, it feels more like an on-ramp than the actual highway. It's just picking us up to speed. However, a good point to be made here is that if you're trying to sound like John Williams, then the pickup is probably something you should include. We should probably do an entire video on John Williams' use of the perfect fourth pickup. Once again, this figure here essentially gives us the DNA for this theme. It's a jump up and then a step down. In this case, it's a third. Thirds are sprinkled all over this theme. We've got one here. Got another one down here, there's another one there, and then this one here is theoretically a third, but it's a diminished third, which we all know is just a major second that's lying to itself and to us. Figures 1 and 2 have got the same contour, that is to say the same shape. This one is a third, and this one here is a fifth, but still it's a jump up and then a step down. We have that again here. And then, look at this here at the end of the phrase. We have an inversion of the motif because of that major second that's a diminished third. We have a step up and then a leap down, which is an inversion of the phrase. It's upside down. And look at this right here. We have phrases 1 and 2 have provided a pattern. So we go up and then we fall back down, and we go up and then we fall back down. But phrase 3 breaks that pattern. Instead, we rise up, we have that jump, but then instead we continue going up to the highest note in the phrase so far, or to the highest note in the theme so far. But then, once again, you'll see that it does fall down chromatically. Chromaticism is actually a very important aspect of this theme. Let's hear the theme completely diatonic. it loses some of its magicness. Structurally, I think that you can make the argument for either 2 or 4 phrases here. This pickup happens exactly twice, suggesting that there's 2 phrases, one here pick up to measure 1 and one here pick up to measure 9. But then we have this R1 figure that takes place exactly 4 times, exactly every 4 measures, which would suggest perhaps that it is actually 4 phrases long. Phrases 2 and 4 have the exact same rhythm, and then phrases 1 and 3 have got very similar rhythms. They're only different in these 2 measures here. I think the flaw in a 4-phrase argument is that phrase 3 doesn't have a very clear ending right there, suggesting that it's part of a longer phrase. Furthermore, if we consider this to be 1 phrase and this to be 1 phrase, then we have this phrase ending on a B and this phrase ending on an E, which would give us an open-closed pair, which both looks and sounds correct. I don't know. I could see it going either way. And this is kind of the end of my analysis. Feels a little anticlimactic. So let's try a little writing exercise based on what we have learned from this theme. I've got basically 3 rhythmic considerations that I want to include. 1, a memorable rhythmic motif. 2, a secondary rhythmic motif that's related to the first, i.e. a retrograde augmentation. And 3, longer notes to create separation between phrases. I really like the symmetrical feel, so maybe let's try a 6/8 example, which is just 2 measures of 3/8 shoved together. I'm actually going to try reversing those rhythmic figures. I think that builds momentum. And you know what? That might actually sound pretty good doubled. So then let's finish off the phrase with 2 dotted quarters. So that would give us da, 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 da. So melodically, we're looking to, number 1, jump up and then step down. 2, use 4 uses of that figure. 3, use an inversion of the figure somewhere. Number 4, chromaticism, and then bonus points if we can structure our phrases as opened and closed. I'm going to go with a perfect 5th for our main interval, and then these dotted rhythms here are probably going to be good to sequence. So let's go ahead and invert the contour here. We'll jump down and then step up. And then repeat that figure, except this time we want to escape upwards, ending on our dominant. So now let's add in some chromaticism. Williams in this melody tended to prefer sharp 7 and flat 2, so let's go ahead and use those. Both of those have a really strong pull to the tonic, so let's try some of that here. And then let's do a descending chromatic figure here for these measures using our primary rhythm. Where do we want to end that phrase? I feel like that could use an interruption from our secondary rhythm right here, so let's copy that in. This might be a good place for an octave displacement here. Now, for our last phrase, we know that we want our melody to end here on A, so let's go ahead and do that. It will probably match this. It's probably good to make it match this first phrase pretty closely. So let's outline a 5 chord here, and because we can, I'll make this a flat 2. So here's what we got. I feel like that's not terrible, and the great thing about an exercise is that it doesn't have to go anywhere or be anything. It can just be, and that has a certain beauty to it. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Score Study. A big part of my job, both as a composer and as a music theorist, involves studying scores, so I want to bring you in as a part of that journey. Hopefully, we'll learn a good bit about music theory and about writing music along the way. So if you'd like to follow along with this series, I've got a gift for you. The Score Study Field Guide. It's a step-by-step guide on how I study music, and I want to give it to you. The link is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.